good evening. You're watching Primetime. I'm Tamanna Inamdar.
And my name is Ayush. Let's have a look at today's headlines. Prime Minister Modi pitches India's soft power at Davos, even as he identifies climate change, terrorism and protectionism as the three biggest threats to mankind.
And we'll get you some of the biggest voices from the World Economic Forum. We'll have Uday Kotak, Sajan Jindal, Ajit Gulabchand and Rajneesh Kumar all coming up on Primetime.
Indian markets rise for the fifth straight day. Sensex shoots past the 36,000 mark. The Nifty conquers 11,000.
The Aadhaar debate continues in the Supreme Court today. Petitioners argue that the current system will lead to surveillance Raj, also claim that the enrollment system is faulty.
And the decks are cleared for the nationwide release of Padmavat. The Supreme Court dismisses pleas by Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh's governments seeking a stay on the release of the film.
The Shiv Sena signals its exit from the NDA, says it will fight the 2019 Assembly and Lok Sabha elections on its own. Now, Prime Minister Modi delivered his inaugural address at the World Economic Forum today, the first Indian Prime Minister to do so. Highlighting the challenges faced by the world today, Modi said that a lack of consensus among countries and leaders is a big hurdle for the global economy. The Prime Minister also summed up the challenges faced by the world today in three key issues.
हर कोई कहता है कि कार्बन एमिशन को कम करना चाहिए, लेकिन ऐसे कितने देश या लोग हैं जो विकासशील देशों और समाजों को उपयुक्त टेक्नोलॉजी उपलब्ध कराने के लिए आवश्यक संसाधन मुहैया कराने में मदद करने के लिए आगे आते हैं। सोचने का विषय है कि त्यागपूर्वक भोग से आवश्यकता अनुसार उपभोग करते हुए अब हम लालच के वश डिटोरिएट होते 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 अपने सुखों के लिए प्रकृति के शोषण तक पहुंच गए हैं। हमें अपने आप को पूछना होगा कि क्या यह हमारा विकास हुआ है या हमारा पतन हुआ है। आतंकवाद जितना खतरनाक है उससे भी खतरनाक है गुड टेररिस्ट और बैड टेररिस्ट के बीच बनाया गया आर्टिफिशियल भेद। बहुत से समाज और देश ज्यादा से ज्यादा आत्म केंद्रित होते जा रहे हैं। ऐसा है कि ग्लोबलाइजेशन अपने नाम के विपरीत सिकुड़ता चला जा रहा है। हमें इस बात को स्वीकार करना होगा कि ग्लोबलाइजेशन की चमक धीरे धीरे कम होती जा रही है।
But Prime Minister Modi also highlighted India's transition from the era of red tapeism to the modern investment-friendly era. He also said that all areas of the Indian economy are open for foreign direct investment.
आज हम भारत की अर्थव्यवस्था को जिस प्रकार से निवेश के लिए सुगम बना रहे हैं, उसका कोई सानी नहीं है। इसी का नतीजा है कि आज भारत में निवेश करना, भारत की यात्रा करना, भारत में काम करना, भारत में मैन्युफैक्चरिंग करना और भारत से अपने प्रोडक्ट एंड सर्विसेज को दुनिया भर को एक्सपोर्ट करना, सभी कुछ पहले की तुलना में बहुत आसान हो गया है। हमने लाइसेंस परमिट राज को जड़ से खत्म करने का प्रण लिया है। रेड टेप हटाकर हम रेड कारपेट बिछा रहे हैं। अर्थव्यवस्था के लगभग सभी क्षेत्र फॉरेन डायरेक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट के लिए खुल गए हैं।
Now, representatives of India's corporate and business world hailed the PM's speech, with some calling his speech one that was statesmanlike and others hailing Modi's decision to pitch India's soft power.
I think what he's done is, in a sense, told the world that come to India because the solutions you're seeking are there. In a sense, he chose a moral playground. He chose a playground quite apart from hard power, economic power. He talked about soft power, spiritual power. And I believe some people might criticize that as perhaps this was not the forum, we should have focused on economics. I completely disagree. I think when you choose to change the rules of the game, then you dominate the proceedings, and I think he did.
It was more than believe in India. It was actually sharing a very refreshing vision of India for the rest of the world, which is very rarely spoken about or discussed at fora like these, which tend to be much more business oriented. So it was about India, the democracy. It was about India, the multicultural society. It was about what India has to share with the rest of the world, with our experience in dealing with that complexity. With the rest of the world is dealing with similar kinds of problems. It was about inclusive growth. It was about sharing India's experience with delivering inclusive growth and the reforms that are being introduced to improve how inclusion is delivered, all the way from welfare reform to shifting the burden of growth on entrepreneurship and business.
Statesmen, global statesmen speak not only to talk about India, but to talk about globalization, to talk about the larger issues in climate change, terrorism. So I think the Prime Minister has spoken as a statesman. Reforms, which is true that as the world is going inward and India is globalizing, India is ready for business.
देखिए, प्रधानमंत्री जी ने बिल्कुल वर्ल्ड स्टेज पे आके जो बड़ी बात कहने की बात होती है कि भारत यहाँ है और भारत दुनिया भर की अपॉर्चुनिटी है, वो बहुत अच्छी तरह से कम्युनिकेट करी है. सो अपॉर्चुनिटी ये है कि भारत का दशक है, अगला वाला दशक.
रिफॉर्म्स के बारे में भी बात की, चेंजेस के बारे में,
टेक्नोलॉजी की बात करें, फाइनेंशियल रिफॉर्म्स की बात करें, ट्रांसपेरेंसी की बात करें, इससे बढ़िया सरकार नहीं रही है और इससे बढ़िया भारत की स्टेट नहीं रही है दुनिया में.
Now, amidst the ongoing concerns over the revival of the economy, Uday Kotak, Chairman and Managing Director of Kotak Mahindra Bank, expects growth to pick up to 7% in FY19. Speaking to Bloomberg Quint's Menika Doshi on the sidelines of the Davos summit, Kotak insisted that the economy is steadily recovering. Here's a slice of that conversation.
As I'd envisaged, it was a speech of a global statesman, and the Prime Minister has moved on from selling India to being the statesman for India, and the world is listening. And the 3 points he made on climate change, terrorism, and protectionism are the key points today in the world order, and what better place than the World Economic Forum.
As we stand here today for 2018, how are we to read the economy? And I'm not meaning in one cohesive picture, because we've got many different parts to it. Exports that are confusing and puzzling, the rupee that's strengthening, rates, we've seen what's happened to the 10-year, private sector investment, which is just not picking up, demand, which seems tepid, the last few data points, NPAs, where the bottom is still not visible, and imports, which seem to be growing in amount as a substitution trade for, I think, all the SMEs that were damaged by demon, is what some people have analyzed it to be.
I think the economy is improving, and we can see it on the ground. We're seeing it in our loan growth. We're seeing a change in the pulse. So I believe that India will grow at 7% in 2018-19. Okay? So I'm quite comfortable with the fact that the Indian economy is steadily recovering. And I think this is reasonably sustainable as long as oil prices don't go out of control. And subject to that, I think India is in a reasonably sweet spot. And on the whole area of oil prices, if there's one area which we need to focus on is India's competitiveness. Therefore, we don't need to be protectionist, but we got to figure out how we are going to be competitive. Because even when oil was at $40, we had a current account deficit. So this year we will run a 2% current account deficit. I am of the view that India has managed the debt side of financing this deficit, which is in many ways the P&L account, very conservatively.
You've spoken about this in a previous interview, and there are other angles to this, and I'll come back. But I just want to dwell a little bit more on growth. This will continue to be consumer demand-led growth. However,
yeah, but over time,
slightly soft it seems
as
right now.
demand goes up, it starts asking for capacity, and that will inevitably lead to investment cycle. I think we're going to get there now.
In this FY?
My view is 18-19 will see a pickup in the investment cycle. As people get clear about the political outcomes in 2019.
Big bulk of private capital that went to work was in the 2003-04 period to 2010 period, and we all know what that was characterized by. Will this time be different? Will we probably never see private capital?
I think we'll see private capital in a different form.
Yeah.
I think we'll see a lot of it also come as institutional capital, including private equity and other sources of capital, not the traditional promoter capital in every case. There are a few strong promoters who will put money to work. Therefore, we will see a different mix of new investments as we look at the next few years.
Do you think he has space, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley, for anything but a prudent budget? Because I ask you this in the context of what's happened to the 10-year yield. I know you have views on the bond markets, so I'm combining both questions and saying...
My sense is that
we're at 7.3, 7.4.
My sense is the government will have the flexibility of public sector undertakings to be able to ensure that the fiscal deficit of the government will be under control. So they've used the disinvestment tool pretty effectively to control the fiscal deficit. Therefore, my sense is you'll see a little bit of a slippage, but not too much, maybe around, say, 3.4, 3.5 this year. But the government has significant ability in its underlying public sector companies to be able to keep the fiscal deficit under control even next year.
Chairman and Managing Director of HCC, Ajit Gulabchand, says the effects of disruptions from GST haven't receded yet. Speaking to Menika Doshi at Davos, Gulabchand added that the bankruptcy law also added to disruptions alongside GST.
The impact of that disruption is not going to go away easily. So I think this year also will be a troublesome year. And people will talk of green shoots. Which, have you noticed, green shoots is usually confirmed only a few days later when there are many more around. Till then, the green shoots are in the eyes of the optimist. Since the disruptions were caused last year and they came in a suddenness, maybe this year the stabilization might improve things.
Okay.
But you have the ogre of higher oil prices. Now that it has come in, disruptive as it is one part of the solution. But still, banks are not deciding. The banks are going to bankruptcy, taking companies to bankruptcy, not because that is necessarily the solution, but because they want somebody else to decide on haircuts.
State Bank of India Chairman Rajneesh Kumar believes that 2018 will be a good year for PSU banks on the NPA front. However, he ruled out quick fixes to the bad loan menace. Speaking to Bloomberg News, Kumar has expressed hope that all banks will recognize all bad loans in the December quarter. Listen in.
As far as the bad assets is concerned, the recognition part where all the bad assets were to be recognized, that part is over now, and whatever is remaining, if any, that I am hopeful that all the banks would be able to recognize within this quarter. The biggest challenge would be that through whatever process we adopt for resolution of the NPAs, either through the insolvency code or any other method where the bad assets are sold, there will be a gap in the provisioning, and that is precisely where the support from the government is required. And for the banking system to come out of the problem, we have to provide for those loan losses which have been incurred. And that will take a little bit of time.
Former RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan says that insolvency and bankruptcy code is the right step to tackle the NPA menace. Speaking with Bloomberg, Rajan said that the Monetary Policy Committee has done a good job in controlling inflation.
I think the targets are useful, certainly for high inflation countries. We understand that once you have that target, then it gives you a certain sense of commitment to bring inflation down. It's been very helpful for India, I think, and the new Monetary Policy Committee is doing a great job in focusing on that. I think there was a sequence of necessary actions. The first was recognition. The second was to give the banks the tools to work with the corporations in actually resolving the debt. Now, India passed a bankruptcy code recently, and that's being worked out. But I think that's a phenomenally important step in ensuring that there's a full stop at the end of this process. If you don't deal with us, the bankers can go and tell the corporates, then we will have to go to bankruptcy court, and there you may lose your enterprise. I think that's an important message to give.
Well, there's no evidence that the global stock market rally is nearing a halt. That's the word coming in from John Stadzinski of Blackstone. Speaking to Bloomberg Quint's Menika Doshi, he adds that business leaders globally are very confident of investment opportunities. Listen in.
Business leaders right now are very positive, and they like transformational leaders because they like leaders who have a vision. Because vision means they're putting in place building blocks of a society, of an economy, the way President Xi is obviously doing that with respect to China. But you've seen that increasingly in other parts of the world, and to a certain extent the tax legislation which Donald Trump enacted in the Congress at the end of last year, I think is going to have a big boost to the U.S. economy for a very interesting reason. Remember, 50% of the U.S. economy are small businesses. Those small businesses will materially benefit from the tax reduction.
What will be then the most interesting challenge of 2018 from a business point of view? Will it be getting over the unpredictability of our leaders?
Well, from a business point of view, from an investing point of view, everyone walks in and says, should we start moving stocks in the United States into cash? Real estate's very expensive. Can we continue to invest? And our answer is yes, as long as you find the right real estate and you can enhance its value by buy, fix, and hold, or buy, fix, and sell. And no one can see any evidence of the investment expansion and the performance of the stock market or anything halting. Low volatility, low chance of recession, low interest rates,
low inflation,
extremely strong companies in India, Japan, much more focused on corporate governance, much more focused on dividends, much more focused on share buybacks. So people are much more conscious of the global investment behavior.
And Uber will take responsibility for all the legal cases lined up against it, says Uber CEO Dara Khosrowshahi. Speaking to Bloomberg News at Davos, he also said he will try to move beyond the controversies and get the company back on track in 2018.
My job in 2018 is to get rid of the distractions and get the company back to business, get the company back to normalcy. There's a lot that we've done in the past 6 months as far as bringing in new investors, driving a new culture and norms where doing the right thing, period, comes first, bringing a new management team, et cetera. There's a lot that we've gotten done, but this is a company that knows how to execute. This is a service. Mobility as a service is something that's universal, that's needed in the world, and I just want to get back to doing business.
It's quite interesting. You have got a sort of hangover from last year, which is all the regulatory problems, and particularly all the cases against you. I think there are 6 criminal probes or whatever going on.
The lawyers are lining up outside the door.
Which one do you sort of think? Which one do you fear most? I suppose, different things.
Listen, I think that all of them are serious issues, and my response is that we're going to be transparent and we're going to take responsibility for our actions in the past. I do think that there are certain circumstances where there was smoke but no fire. And I think as a company, we have to defend ourselves and work within kind of the appropriate frameworks. And my goal is just to get beyond this stuff.
Some of these things like pricing policies, surely they go right to the heart of what Uber is, or am I wrong about that?
Yeah, I think they do, but I think that there's a way of being smart but transparent at the same time, and that's where we've got to take the company.
Meanwhile, ONGC has received government approval to sell its stake in GIL and IOC to fund its acquisition of HPCL. ONGC holds 13.77% stake in IOC, while it also holds a 4.86% stake in GAIL. Put together, these shares are worth over 30,000 crore rupees. According to PTI sources, ONGC had received government approval earlier in the month, but is waiting for the right price to offload the shares. For the moment, ONGC is funding the 36,915 crore acquisition of the government's 51.1% stake in HPCL from the cash it has on its books and short-term borrowing.
And the Aadhaar hearing resumed in the Supreme Court today. Representing petitioners, a senior advocate Shyam Diwan argued that the current system will lead to a surveillance raj. He also claimed that the enrollment system is faulty. Arpan Chaturvedi, who has been tracking the case very closely, has the details of today's hearing in this report.
Well, while on day one we saw the petitioners giving an overview of their arguments related to Aadhaar program and the Aadhaar Act and how they will go forward, on day two we saw them arguing on particularly the aspect of the Aadhaar program as it existed between 2009 and 2016 before the Aadhaar Act came into effect. Today's arguments were again focused mostly, the first half was on the privacy judgment and where they felt that the law laid down by the privacy judgment. They read excerpts from individual judges, Justice Chandrachud, Justice Bobde, Justice Kaul, and they led their argument as to why all of that now clearly lays down that the aspect of Aadhaar and the Aadhaar program and where all does it violate. On the second half again they went on the Aadhaar Act itself, where they laid down the whole argument that the way in which the Aadhaar Act is drafted, that enrollment process will lead to the surveillance of entire society, and again they went on with the argument that the enrollment system is faulty. Apart from that, they also said that it does not recognize the choice of an individual as to how he or she wants to be identified. After that, of course, they also focus their argument on the lack of remedy provided on the program, like what happens if an individual's data is leaked, what are the options. In that case, the UIDAI is the one which can only file complaints. So today's focus of the argument was mainly on the Aadhaar Act, and again the hearing will continue here on, and Senior Advocate Shyam Diwan will be building further on this specific point of argument against the Aadhaar Act itself.
Well, the Supreme Court today refused to modify its earlier order allowing the nationwide release of Padmavat, while rejecting pleas filed by Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh governments seeking modification of the January 18th order. A bench headed by Chief Justice Deepak Mishra said that people must understand orders of the top court have to be abided with. The bench said that the states were obliged to maintain law and order and gave them the liberty to approach it again if the situation arises.
And in some political news, BJP's oldest alliance partner, the Shiv Sena, says it's going to fight the 2019 Assembly and Lok Sabha elections solo. Meanwhile, Aditya Thackeray, son of Uddhav Thackeray, has been named a member of Shiv Sena's national executive. Sena President Uddhav Thackeray took a vow saying that they will fight elections in every state for the cause of Hindutva. And 20 AAP MLAs moved the Delhi High Court today, challenging their disqualification for holding an office of profit. The plea also sought a stay and withdrawal of the government notification, stating that the president had held that 20 MLAs stand disqualified under the Government of National Capital Territory of Delhi Act. The plea is listed for tomorrow for an urgent hearing. Well, meanwhile, the Aam Aadmi Party unit in Madhya Pradesh has said that 116 MLAs in the Shivraj Singh Chauhan should also be disqualified on grounds of office of profit. They've claimed that they have made this complaint to the Election Commission about 2 years ago. Is it time to review the office of profit rules altogether? Should the same rules be applied in Delhi and Madhya Pradesh? We're going to be speaking on that on Primetime Debate this evening. I'm joined by the Aam Aadmi Party and BJP spokespersons, and of course T.S. Krishnamurthy, former CEC, for his view on the whole process. Do tune in to that conversation.
Well, moving to a political crisis in the US of A. The Congress voted to end the US government shutdown after 3 days by passing a temporary spending bill. The vote prolongs the fight over a politically charged immigration proposal for at least another 3 weeks. The impasse broke after Senate Democrats accepted a deal from Majority Leader Mitch McConnell that would fund the government through February 8th. In exchange, McConnell agreed to address Democratic demands that the Congress quickly restore protections against deportation to young, undocumented immigrants brought to the U.S. as children, which advocates call dreamers. Jody Schneider of Bloomberg News sums up the developments in this report.
The proverbial can has been kicked down the road yet again. This is the fourth short-term extension of government funding since the new U.S. fiscal year began October 1st. And people are saying there will likely be a fifth short-term round as well, because in 3 weeks it's going to be very difficult for them to settle the longer-term and bigger picture spending issues like how much to allocate for domestic programs versus military funding. They haven't even gotten to that yet. And the other question is, how are they going to settle, and are they going to settle the immigration question, which led to the shutdown, in just 3 weeks' time? The Democrats got a promise from Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell that he would address the issue. They didn't get a promise on a vote, and they got no such assurances from the House of Representatives or the White House.
Well, in other news from the U.S., President Donald Trump has decided to impose tariffs on solar equipment imported into the United States for 4 years. The U.S. solar industry has largely opposed tariffs, warning that they could cause thousands of job cuts and threaten billions of dollars of investment in the industry. Trump approved duties of as much as 30% on solar equipment made abroad. This move threatens to handicap a $28 billion industry that relies on parts made abroad for 80% of its supply.
And will Budget 2018 concentrate on reviving agricultural distress? Well, the large view is that it definitely will. But this evening, first up on Primetime Debate in our series that we kicked off yesterday, today we talk about agri-distress and what can be done. Siraj Hussain, Senior Fellow at ICRAER, Sudha Narayan, Associate Professor at IGIDR, and MS Swaminathan, Agricultural Scientist, will join me on that conversation. So stay tuned.